Today, I'm joined by former CIA Larry Johnson to go over the Trump victory and how he might proceed with ending the global conflicts around the world. Larry, thank you for joining me again.
I always appreciate the invite.
What were your thoughts last night when it looked like Donald Trump was going to win, Kamala refusing to speak to her crowd? What were your thoughts on the whole election night?
I thought, and I wrote before the results were in, that Trump should win. It was just a question of how much cheating and manipulation of the vote there would be. What struck me was, and I was monitoring a variety of channels, but it was Fox News went out of its way not to make calls that, Associated Press was making calls a half hour to an hour before. So I don't know what game Fox was playing with that. This was a gut punch to the deep state, pure and simple. But they're not giving up. They are still working away today. I've heard, for example, the name of Tom Cotton being pushed as, the new Secretary of Defense. Tom Cotton would be just another neocon in that position. It would make zero change in America's war standing. I look at Trump with some optimism. He's 78 years old, but he proved that he's still young and agile when it comes to figure out what he's going to do in his campaign. You look at what happened in 2016. In that campaign, the focus was primarily on getting on all the cable news shows and all the mainstream media. And back then, they still loved Donald Trump, and he was everywhere. So he went with the legacy media model. In 2020, the media was not as friendly at all, and he shifted to the rally strategy. And most of his campaigning was through those rallies and local media coverage of those rallies. Well, what he picked up on, and I don't think the Democrat machine did, is how people's viewing and listening habits have changed. Your show is a case in point. You're approaching, you got over 1 million subscribers, I believe, and people are coming to watch you. They're not turning into Fox. They're not turning into CNN. They're not tuning into MSNBC. And so what Trump understood that and made great use of it, including the interview with Joe Rogan Experience. He's got 18 million subscribers, and was everywhere on social media and had an effective social media presence. That coupled with just the utter failure of the Biden administration. They had failed to control the economy, and they still gaslight people and say, "Oh, you're doing fine. The economy's strong." I told the story to someone else earlier today. I got 2 Rottweilers, and we feed them raw meat. And so I'll buy them hamburger. And we go to BJ's. It was like Sam's Club. And I'd buy a log of hamburger meat. Well, a year and a half ago, we were paying like $8.95. Today, $17.
Wow.
It's gone up that much. Eggs have gone up. So you can't keep telling people, the economy's swell, when it's not. And then they're watching all of this international turmoil and the agitation to get the United States involved with more foreign wars. And that was Trump's real strong suit during his 4-year term starting in 2017, that he didn't go out to start new wars.
Yeah, one of the things that impressed me most in the last week was Trump has this opportunity to meet with Arab Americans and Muslims in Michigan. Kamala does not go to it. He decides to go. He flies in and he tells them, "Listen, I support Israel. America supports Israel, but I support ending this war, and I don't want another war in the Middle East. I will do everything I can to avoid war in the Middle East." And based off the Abraham Accords, his constant criticism of the Middle East war in Iraq and Iran and other areas under Bush, I think they believed him and he ends up, winning Michigan handedly. But I think people are realizing he really does want what's best for America, and he knows a lot of that is affordability and avoiding foreign wars. And then, of course, he's just hammered on the southern border, which I want to talk about next.
Sure.
But was there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, no, I think the key is for international affairs will be how to deal with Iran. Unfortunately, in this country, in the United States, we have convinced ourselves that Iran is the number one sponsor of terrorism, that Iran is a terrorist state, and that there's no way to negotiate with or deal with them. It's just, I can go into depth on the details to show that that's, a lot of that's not true. And the fact that the United States itself has been funding a terrorist organization, the MEK, that has been carrying out terrorist attacks in Iran. So our hands aren't clean on that front. If Trump can find a way to negotiate with Iran, then that will clear up a lot of the conflict in the Middle East. The issue will be whether or not the extreme Zionists that currently control the government in Israel will accede to that. But that's the real flashpoint, and I don't discount the possibility of Bibi Netanyahu doing something very crazy within the next 2 months that could hand Donald Trump a real problem when he takes office. We saw yesterday that Bibi fired his defense chief, Gallant, and Yoav Gallant, he didn't disagree with Bibi Netanyahu on how to deal with the Palestinians, but he did have profound disagreements on the fact that they're overstretching the Israeli military and putting it at risk. So it could be that kind of, Bibi fired him and then put in somebody who's not nearly as well qualified as Gallant. So, that's what I'm saying. That's one of those unexpected crises could really create some challenges for Trump. The good news is Trump's had a 4-year internship. He's already done the job. He did it pretty well. At least Americans were satisfied with him overall at the end of that 4 years. And now, in light of what the Biden and Kamala Harris administration did, they wanted some more Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's bring it back home just for a minute. Donald Trump, during his campaigning, he hammered hard on the southern border, 15 million illegals, mass deportation. He said recently that he plans to put tremendous amounts of pressure on the new Mexican president to stop the invasion on the southern border. On our side, he wants to hire 10,000 new Border Patrol agents, 10% raises to Border Patrol agents, and a $10,000 signing bonus. There's the old saying, put your money where your mouth is. To me, everything indicates he is dead serious about fixing this invasion on the southern border.
Yeah, and then if the Republicans don't take back the House, it'll be virtually impossible to get that bill through a democratically controlled House of Representatives. But I'm sure Trump will take some other steps that he can through executive orders and, frankly, activating the military to start rounding these people up and forcing them out. I know there are some, Michael Yon insists that even if you put pressure on Mexico, you can't stop this. But, I disagree. When you shut down Mexican trade with the United States, shut it down. You're not coming across the border. We've done that once or twice when the Mexican government was complicit in the murder of Kiki Camarena, a DEA officer, 40 years ago. We ultimately shut down the border. And then all of a sudden the Mexicans became very cooperative in finding the killers and locating the body of Kiki. So I think it's going to take that kind of pressure to get the Mexicans to stop allowing these illegal migrants to transit. They come across from Guatemala at a place called Esquipulas, and then travel north, and they go all across the border from Texas to California. And it is something that they've got to stop it. But the other way to stop it, you're going to have to prosecute Bill Gates. Bill Gates should be indicted. He has been helping fund this influx of migrants. And you got to ask why. He spent an enormous amount of money involved doing this. And Mayorkas comes out of an organization that has been facilitating it as well. They've been making literally tens of millions of dollars off of smuggling these people in. And I think most Americans are fed up with it, that it should have been stopped a long time ago. It's been facilitated, aided, and abetted by Biden and Harris. And now I think that would be Trump's number one priority, get it stopped.
Yeah. Well, in his first term, I think with guidance from Ivanka, his daughter, he put way more resources and money on stopping child trafficking than any president has in a long time. So I believe if they tell him he can't, I think it will only motivate him to figure out a way to accomplish it. That just seems to be his stubborn personality. But the other thing we have to keep in mind is, RFK Jr., it's been announced that he's going to play a major role in the Trump administration. And he is going to be, whispering in the ear of Trump about Bill Gates and about Dr. Fauci. It wouldn't shock me if this Bill Gates topic is approached between the two of them privately.
Well, and if Trump follows through and they release the Epstein list, reportedly Gates figures prominently in that list and was a frequent visitor to that island, which, at least he wasn't there just to enjoy the tropical sun and get a suntan. But going after the pharmaceutical industry is really what RFK is talking about, and it's really much needed. When I was growing up, I'm about 20, 30 years older than you. We got about 2 shots. We had a mumps, measles shot and a smallpox. That was it. We weren't getting vaccinated. Now, the number of vaccinations that are pushed on children up to the age of 3 is the number's like off the chart. It's like 70. It's unbelievable. Well, why is that? And it hasn't made kids healthier. It hasn't made kids less obese. If anything, it's had the opposite effect. And so what we are faced with is a corrupt industry in the pharmaceutical industry. It comes up always looking for the government to help create reasons to require people to use their products. And that was, the biggest example of that was the COVID-19, which I'll call it a hoax from the standpoint that people were forced, in many cases, to take vaccines that clearly didn't work, were demonstrably ineffective. But they kept being told, oh, yeah, it's effective. And instead, a lot of people have paid for it with their lives or have suffered severe vaccine injury. And, it even got to the place where like different social media platforms, just to say that, which was a fact, was treated as if it was, quote, misinformation.
Yeah. I want to tell you guys about an amazing product called Kimchi One from Bright Core Nutrition. Kimchi One packs all the fermented nutrition of kimchi into convenient capsules. It completely cleans out your gut and improves digestion. It also gives me more energy and has boosted my immune system and all other areas of my health. I highly recommend this product because all health starts in the gut. So putting the right fermented superfood in your gut improves every aspect of your health, your skin, your hair, your mental performance, and you can do it the natural way. Today, you can get an exclusive offer for my viewers only. Buy 2 bottles of Kimchi One and get one absolutely free by clicking the link below. Or call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. They really go the extra mile and ensure you're taken care of when you call in. And you'll also get a free gift with your order. So give them a call now at 888-908-4425. Kimchi One is all natural. It's made in the USA, non-GMO, and this is a really great company. They are true patriots. They even donate a portion of their proceeds to the Wounded Warrior Project. So do something great for your health today and something great for your country. Give them a call right now at 888-908-4425. All right, let's get back to the interview. What are your thoughts on this? I know that politics is a bit of a game, and they're all trying to push the envelope, but then they realize at some point, they're going to be on the opposite side because they'll be out of the administration. The Biden Justice Department announced today that they will immediately end the Jack Smith cases of January 6th and selling off or sharing top secret documents at Mar-a-Lago for Donald Trump, even though they legally could, continue to go after him until January 19th. Do you think they are retreating out of tradition and doing the right thing? Or do you think that maybe they're signaling to the Trump administration, we don't want any future problems, we're backing down?
Yeah, well, they're going to get prosecuted. I guarantee it. These cases were without foundation. And there is credible evidence against Jack Smith that he was involved with an extortion operation when he was over in Europe, that he was shaking down Serbians, threatening to have them indicted unless they coughed up millions of dollars. My former business partner has been directly involved with, he filed a complaint with the Inspector General at the Department of Justice, laying out in detail the payments, who was involved. And so Jack Smith, according to that complaint, is a very corrupt individual. So I expect to see that exposed. You're going to finally get with the Department of Justice as well. They recognize they're in trouble. They have incarcerated people for, quote, insurrection who did no such thing. They have helped fabricate the narrative that what happened on January 6th was an attempt to overthrow the election. Apart from the fact that there were genuine, authentic questions about the validity of the 2020 election, and that's even coming into focus now, the fact that Kamala Harris got 14 million fewer votes than Joe Biden. But on top of that, they went after people. It was clear that the FBI was involved with planting their own agents in that crowd in order to instigate. There's photographic evidence that members of the Azov battalion from Ukraine were in that crowd, brought over by the Democrats, inserted. This was a setup to create a narrative. So the Department of Justice has been involved with a lot of corrupt activities. And Merrick Garland going after Catholics, accusing them of being terrorists. Just the misuse of the Justice Department alone, that was probably, for me, the biggest thing in getting a Trump victory, to get that place cleaned up. Day one, you're going to see Christopher Wray, the FBI director, gone. He's not going to be around. And I think Trump hopefully learned his lesson from the first go-round. You don't trust a chubby donut eater like Chris Christie to make your recommendations on who to put in the FBI. You keep him isolated. You got to listen to people that you can trust. So whether someone like Kash Patel is put into that job, I don't know. But certainly Trump's got to do a much better job in his selecting of personnel in order to get people that will actually be loyal to him and will carry out lawful orders.
Yeah. The mainstream media has been pushing this. Trump will be a dictator. He'll go after his political enemies. But if people have actually broken the law and a real investigation proves that, then those people deserve to be punished, whether they are in politics or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I've covered so many political corruption stories this year, I can't even remember them all, whether it's brothels or gold bars or drug stuff or, selling licenses and favors. I mean, it's just nonstop with these politicians.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that the Democrats were projecting onto Trump what they were doing themselves. They were the ones carrying out political persecutions, both persecutions and prosecutions. And they had a lot of Republican enablers, people like Mitt Romney, people like Liz Cheney. Just the emblematic nature of the corruption endemic to Washington was the fact that Dick Cheney thought that Kamala Harris would be a better choice for president. Are you kidding me? And yet it shows you what a disgusting, loathsome, corrupt person he is, that he would indulge something like that when he claimed to be a man of principle for so many years. And the only principle he cared about was, what kind of interest he was earning on his bank deposits.
Yeah. I saw former President George W. Bush came out, congratulated Trump, thanked all the Republicans for working so hard to win the Senate and the presidency. I was shocked. He's been so quiet, unlike Obama and others. But let's.
Where was he before Election Day?
Yeah.
Okay. After the winners come in, hell, you had Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, called to congratulate Donald Trump, and that jerk violated U.S. election laws by sending over members of his political party to campaign for Kamala Harris. The balls on that guy. Yeah. Unbelievable. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Trump. If I was Donald Trump, I wouldn't return his phone calls or have anything to do with him.
Well, from what I'm reading, he won't be in office very long, so maybe he's trying to kiss Trump's butt in order to gain some kind of favor. One of the big stories that everybody is wondering about is, Vladimir Putin openly endorsed Kamala Harris, said she would be much better for Russia, and everybody was like, "Wait a minute, shouldn't he be?" I thought he was best friends with Trump, and they were, doing secret cloak and dagger spy stuff. Now Trump has won, and he is saying, I don't know how we're going to react to a Trump presidency, but I'm open to hearing about a way to end this war. Where do you see this going? Will Volodymyr Zelensky get on board?
Well, Zelensky is not going to have a choice. His choice is agree or die. Those are going to be the two choices. Putin and the Russians have always been open and willing to have a diplomatic engagement with the United States. It's the United States that's been the aggressor in this relationship. It's the United States that's been, if you will, the guilty party. And going back to 2016, 2017, the entire narrative about Trump being a tool of Russia back then was done both to try to hurt him politically, but also to prevent any realistic negotiations between Russia and the United States. And it's dangerous. During the entirety of the Cold War, when we had the Cuban Missile Crisis in '62, even during those times when we almost went to nuclear war with the Soviet Union, we talked to them. We had substantive negotiations. That's not taking place now. Not substantive negotiations. If anything, it's the United States hectoring and lecturing like some drunk mother-in-law who's complaining about her son-in-law's alleged alcoholism when she's the problem. The Russians are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to militarily defeat Ukraine. There's nothing that can save Ukraine at this point. The Russians are not going to accept a negotiated settlement where they freeze in place unless they get a full-blown commitment that Ukraine will never be allowed into NATO, and they get a full-blown commitment of even reparations from the West for stealing their money, $300 billion worth of their money. I don't think, candidly, Trump will be able to negotiate something like that because there's going to be too much political opposition. They're going to continue with this false narrative that Russia stole the election, Russia influenced the election. I mean, for the love of God, Hillary Clinton's still saying that. I mean, she's still saying that. So what we have is a level of dishonesty that, it'll be up to Trump to decide how much pain does he want to endure. he can tell them all, hey, screw off. I'm going to deal with the Russians and make a deal. It would be in the interest of the United States to do so, because we can't afford more endless wars, which is exactly where we're headed.
Yeah. Well, one of the big lies that Biden pushed was your gas prices are going to go up so that we can all stick it to Putin. And then Putin just sold the oil to India. India refined it and sold it to America at a more expensive price. So Putin still got his oil money to fund the war, and we all ended up with a higher thing. But most people don't know that. One thing I wanted to get your opinion on is, two things. Does it get exposed, the illegal dealings that the Bidens had in Ukraine? Also, the bioweapons that are in Ukraine. Does that information get more detailed, or does Trump move on? What are your thoughts?
I actually anticipate that if Joe Biden does not pardon Hunter before he leaves office, that Trump will. And, even though Trump's been portrayed as a fascist, as a Hitler, as a dictator, an authoritarian, you saw sort of the true Trump at that Al Smith dinner in New York City about a month ago. Yeah, he had some really, biting comments about the previous mayor of New York, de Blasio, who, as Trump correctly noted, was the worst mayor in the history of New York City. But then when he spoke to the current mayor, Eric Adams, he was conciliatory. He was, he was made fun of the fact that Adams had been indicted like Trump had been indicted, and suggested that Adams' indictment was a function of his opposition to the Biden administration bringing all these illegal migrants into New York City. And then he spoke kindly to Governor Hochul, who is, that lady's a beast. She's not a nice person. She killed that squirrel. She had that baby squirrel killed just this last week. That shows the kind of lady she is.
Yeah.
And yet Trump was conciliatory to her. So Trump has the ability to reach out and talk to people. And if you saw him at that dinner as well with Chuck Schumer, he was patting Chuck on the back, did everything but rub his head and give him some noogies. But it shows that Trump's got the capacity to do that. I don't think he's the last person, having been the target of it, that wants to go out and politically punish opponents by using the judicial system. If there is a real crime, let it be a real crime, bring the indictment, but don't manufacture this stuff. He's got some real cleanup work to do with the Supreme Court in terms of, he may very well get to replace one or two more justices during his term. Yes. And put a solid conservative seal on it. But the other judges that have been approved and nominated by the Biden administration have been just awful. So unqualified on many levels. So the lawfare will continue. They'll continue to try to sabotage his presidency with meaningless, frivolous prosecutions. But I think now he understands how that game is played, and he's ready to walk in and start doing battle. He wasn't in 2017 when he took the oath of office, but now I think he understands. At least I hope he does.
Yeah. No, I mean, 4 years gives you a lot of experience. I don't know if you saw this or not, but within 2 hours of Trump being declared the 47th president by Associated Press, the Houthis announced on Twitter that they look forward to a ceasefire and negotiations. Any idea, was that coming down the pipeline already, or are they going, wait a minute, we're not going to be able to pull the same tricks with Trump that we did Biden? What are your thoughts?
No, I think they see Trump as a genuine alternative. Now, understand that while we've been dropping bombs on the Houthis, they're still firing rockets and missiles. They got the Red Sea closed down. We haven't been able to beat the Houthis.
Yeah.
And this is where Trump brings a nice choice, a nice alternative, because up to this point, the United States policy in dealing with other countries, not just the Houthis, is you either do what we want, or we're going to impose economic sanctions, and or we're going to run a covert action against you to overthrow your government, and or we'll go to war with you. Now, negotiation doesn't really show up there anywhere, and so the Houthis declaring, "Hey, we'll negotiate with you," because the United States has been involved with sponsoring the war in Yemen, that civil war, for the last 12 years. It started under Obama. This didn't start with Trump, and it started under Obama in part because we saw it as a way to weaken Iran. The entire effort that Obama started, not Trump, to overthrow the government of Bashar al-Assad in Syria was to attack Iran. It was designed to weaken Iran. That's all this was about. So getting negotiated settlements with the Houthis, getting U.S. troops out of Syria, well, I think will open the road to actually getting some negotiations over peace with Iran. Iran doesn't want to be at war, but Iran's also declared it's not going to serve as an Israeli punching bag. And Israel, for all of its complaints that they're the victim of Iranian aggression, it wasn't Iran that blew up the Israeli consulate in Damascus. It was Israel that blew up the Iranian consulate in Damascus. So it's just, I look forward with hope that Trump will make good on his promise to be a peace president. And you saw a little bit of that with J.D. Vance, too, in his discussion. I forget who was doing the interview, but they made something about China as an enemy, Russia as an enemy. And he goes, "Oh, hold on." He says, "We can have differences with those countries, but we got to be really careful about our language. They can be our adversaries, but just because they're an adversary doesn't mean we can't talk and we can't find ways that we can cooperate and that we can negotiate and that we can come to peaceful agreements." And I think JD was reflecting exactly Trump's approach. He's just much more articulate at expressing it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the other thing that I've noticed from interviewing a lot of retired military is if they've been into battle and seen the ugly side of war, they don't want to send other Americans into battle to see the other. And I think JD Vance will have that perspective. And, Trump, after dealing with so many different people and having to go to Walter Reed Medical and receive bodies, and I don't think he wants any of that either. So I'm optimistic. I know it's a lot of work. He's going to have to negotiate with a lot of different governments, ideologies, leadership style. But I'm hopeful and prayerful that he'll get some of these wrapped up.
Well, that's what he loves to do. I mean, he loves the art of the deal, baby.
Yeah, yeah. He's probably looking forward to it. Like, all right, let's get this done.
He's like Brer Rabbit. No, don't throw me in that briar patch.
Yeah,
exactly where he wants to be.
Yeah. Larry, thank you so much for coming on. Final question: Where do you see Kamala Harris's political career? Is she dead in the water?
Dead. She couldn't get elected dog catcher if she liked dogs. She has no future. She has no charisma, and she's giving a speech right now as we're talking, but she's not a power broker at all in the Democrat Party. And one of these days we'll get the real story on who was pulling the strings, who forced Biden out, who forced her to the top. Why didn't they come up with somebody better that would have been a little more formidable? But they didn't. So it is what it is.
Yep. It's all to our advantage. So thank you very much. If people want to follow you, where can I send them to? Sonar21.com. And there you can find all the links to my other social media. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll put sonar21.com down below. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thanks so much, Stephen.